And doctors, healthcare providers, they kind of treat sex like, hey, everything else is more important than that. Well, that's not true. I mean, what do men care more about? How many steps they took yesterday, or where the cock worked? I mean, that's a rhetorical question.
I hate t-shirts that get floppy in the arms after 10 washes. So that's why I created a bunch of t-shirts with high quality cotton just for you so that you can go to the gym and look fresh, sport some philosophy, and smash those PRs looking good. So you need to head to davemorrow.net/merch, grab yourself a hat, grab yourself a t-shirt, grab yourself a sweater, and support the cause today. Hey, folks, we are talking about men's health again today, and I've got Dr. Elliot Justin talking about his new invention, the Firm Tech Ring. Now, this is something that I haven't covered in detail yet on the podcast. I had Dr. Judson Brandeis who got me on this topic and put me in touch with doctor sitting in front of me today, and I wanted to go deep into this subject, no pun intended, as to why sexual health is so important for men and what new tech is coming out to be able to determine whether or not we're healthy and at risk for cardiovascular incidents, to name a few. So, Doc, Elliot, thanks so much for showing up on the podcast. And let's start with a little bit of your backstory and let's get right into your invention.
Sure. Well, my background, I'm an emergency medicine physician, and I've been involved in medical technology since 2015. I can tell you, as an emergency medicine doctor, that there are few emergencies short of a heart attack or a stroke that concern men more than ED. Uh, I mean, the numbers are really alarming. I mean, 20 or 30% of men by age 30 have ED and/or significant performance anxiety. By age 50, it's 50%. It goes up 10% per decade
Wow.
thereafter. Uh, if if a young guy has problems and he's 25 years old and wants to go online and try pills, that's one thing. But as men get into the get older and have more cardiovascular risk, if someone's 40, 45 years old, and things aren't working out for them on a regular basis, they have a vascular problem until proven otherwise. The urologists call the penis the canary in the coal mine of vascular disease. So we, we have significant problems today with diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, obesity. I mean, these are real pandemics. They're
Right.
worldwide problems. They're not even the worst in the United States. They're worse. They're worse in Mexico, the Persian Gulf area,
Oh,
Southeast
really?
Asia, and India because of dietary and also cultural issues. So I was challenged by a urologist back in 2.5 years ago, probably, to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have, because that's a leading indicator of vascular disease. And by leading indicator, I mean before you have a heart attack or a stroke, your number of nocturnal erections is going to go down. Now we all know about morning wood. A lot of people think that has to do with having to take a piss in the morning, but it has nothing to do with that. It just happens
That's
to
what I
be a
learned when I
bladder
was
full in the
8.
morning.
That's what I
Right?
was. It's full of piss. I got to get it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm certain that I'm confident. I think I know you well enough now that if you and I both drank off a liter or two of beer right now, I know I'm not getting an erection. And I doubt if
No,
you'll get an erection either. So,
no.
a healthy young man, 20, 25 years of age, will have 4 to 6 nocturnal erections per night while they're sleeping. They occur during REM sleep, the time of quality sleep.
Right.
I'm around 70 years. I'm 70 years old, and I should have 3 to 4. If that number goes down, I have a vascular problem until proven otherwise. So it's actually a harder indicator than blood pressure or electrocardiogram, because minor variations of that don't tell you much of anything. If my blood pressure, went to up from 115 to 140, I don't know what that means. Is it stress? Is it am I not getting sleep, or do I have a problem with my brain, my kidney, or my heart, which is what I'm really be concerned about. If my number of nocturnal erections went from 4 to 2, and I'm not taking some new medications that's knocking things. I'll get to medications in a moment. I've got a vascular problem, and I might not be aware of it, but I have a problem, and I need an evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, now, the medications are an interesting component of this because men take lots of meds today, especially veterans. I'm alarmed, frankly, by the number of veterans who are taking PD5 type medications, Viagra, Cialis, type medications,
Right.
because they could be masking problems. So, getting back to the point I made earlier, if it's a young person who's taking these things, okay, well, they're unlikely to have a vascular problem. But as people get older, and you're taking medication to try to improve your performance, you really want to look to the underlying cause. So, I mean, the leading cock killers are the SSRI antidepressants, uh, and again, so many veterans in your audience, David, are taking them. But in the general population, people are taking them almost like they're lifesavers, and they're not. No one's ever really studied their long-term effects. The short-term benefits are there for depression, but they also significantly interfere with sexual performance, which is also depressing as well too, especially
Yeah.
in men who are trying to maintain their relationships that are so important to them. The other
Okay.
problem with those.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. I was just
I
going
just
to
want to make
say
one.
to just start with like a definition of terms, right? We covered a lot of ground, and we're going to touch base on all of them. If you go back to just erectile dysfunction, is that defined as anything less than, let's say, a half hour or 4 erections per night? What's the definition to determine whether or not it's a dysfunction or not?
That's a great question because right now it's subjective.
Okay.
Whereas the great thing about, by embedding technology sensors into a smart cock ring, we now can make that diagnosis objective. So the definition of erectile dysfunction is inability to sustain an erection for purposes of personal or partner satisfaction, uh,
Okay.
and inability to get or sustain. Now that can be quite subjective. Now, obviously, we're not talking about extremes. Or if your partner can't get off after an hour of a hard on, well, that's not premature ejaculation on your part. Um, but with a ring, we really can make this differentiation uh, between psychogenic ED, which is ED that's has psychological cause, and physical, and ED that has physical causes or causes related to medications. So, for example, if a man using our ring, and we've had people do this, can't get up with their partner, and yet they have 4 nocturnal erections per night, the problem is not going to be solved by medications. They're, they have issues while they're with their partner, or could be also involve drugs or alcohol while trying to have normal sexual activity, not as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to what's going on during the sleep. At the other extreme, if a man your age even was having 2 or less nocturnal erections, you could still perform sexually, but not all that well. And there's no amount of wrist fatigue or jaw fatigue on the part of your partner that's going to make things better for you because you have a physical problem or a significant medication related problem because your number of
Mm-hmm.
nocturnal erections is insufficient. But let me go back to to the origins of this, if you don't mind. So a couple of years ago, I was challenged by a professor of urology at the University of Utah to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections. And I'll diss him for a moment too. He is our chief medical officer. Well, like so many urologists, they don't, they, they don't, they're focused on things that can, that are, I'll be blunt, they're focused on things that for which they can be compensated, not focused on things for which they can't be compensated. So they don't know much about cock rings, for example. I mean, I've yet to find a straight urologist, and I've spoken to small dozens, who's used a cock ring. Well, how can you recommend a cock ring to someone if you know anything about it? Their
You
focus is
got to
on
lead by example. Yeah.
exactly. Well, I'm doing that here. I'm leading from the. I got my leading. I got my leading part leading this. So I told him, look, he wanted to embed these sensors into a condom like ring that someone would wear overnight. And I thought, well, we can do a lot better than that because I played around with cock rings. Hadn't found a good one because they all suck. They pinch, they're uncomfortable, and we can talk about that, later on. But they we so I said we can do better than that if we can figure out a new form for the cock ring and put sensors into it. We can come up with something that could be worn overnight to count the number of nocturnal erections, or also be worn during sex to measure the duration and firmness of all erections. Because if a man with ED right now goes off to a urologist, or a family doctor, or even a sexologist, they don't have things like electrocardiograms, CT angiograms, blood tests to really evaluate a problem. They have opinion, and they can wave an ultrasound over your dick in their office. But men want to know what's going on when I'm trying to have sex or having sex. So you need
Right.
something that could be worn during sex in privacy at home, not with an appointment or you know uh, or having to go to a sleep lab or some other facility. So that was the challenge that was given to me, was to come up with a cock ring that could be worn for hours. Not, most cock rings today are made out of hard silicone. They're uncomfortable. You can't wear them
Mhm.
for more than 20, 30 minutes, and you want them off. Uh, so we came up with a cock ring that's made out of a soft elastomer. It opens. It's easy on, easy off with a hook closure, and we can now measure the duration and firmness, of all erections. So we could help men figure out what's making it better or worse for them. And we've had lots of men who've used this both to assess their relationships, but also to assess the impact of their antihypertensives, antidepressants, sleep medications, alcohol, recreational drugs, and also a lot of claims are made about diet, supplements, injections for men's health. And we all
Right.
know as guys that, heck, if I had ED, I'd walk on broken glass in order to get a solution. Uh, and now we can finally, using the firm tech ring, we can assess, well, what really works and what doesn't work. Matter of fact, next week we're going to do a challenge to the supplement industry and say, hey, you got something that you're saying online or in the store, it's going to make your dick twice as hard, or really prove it, because we'll take it and we'll demonstrate and we'll show the data.
You're a disruptor. You're a disruptor.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking when Bluetooth was invented, which was I think 20, 30 years ago, right? I'm sure the inventors of Bluetooth never in a million years would have thought, hey, maybe this could help men with erectile dysfunction by putting it into a firm tech ring. But it's just
Yeah.
goes to show how ingenious human beings are. When there's a problem, you can grab a piece of tech and you can have something that we all use every day. It's ubiquitous to really have an impact on some of the most fundamental things when it comes to being a man, which is our sexual health, which again never seems to be prioritized. It's not something I do talk about it when I see my doctor once every year or two. He's like, still get erections? I'm like, yep. He's like, all right. So that's the extent of the conversation. And I'm sure like on his triage list, so I said, no, it's not. He'd be like, okay, well, have you considered taking Viagra?
Yeah.
Because that would be that's what he said to me when I had a slightly higher marker for LDL. He's like, have you considered going on a statin? I was like, nah, I'm okay. So, I know that they've got their list. I know that but they don't have any data to go off of. At least he saw my blood work and you can say, maybe a statin would be good for you. But if I were to say, no, I don't know, I just can't get hard really anymore. I don't know what's up. You'd say, take a pill, you'd be good to go. But in your case, you're like, wait, hold on a sec. What is the underlying data that is going to drive the next decision, which as far as I know, you're the first to have ever invented anything of its kind that can actually give data on your phone to show, hey, I'm getting 4 hard-ons a night. I think I'm good. So I don't know what is explaining the fact that I can't perform with my girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, whatever. So now we're at that point, right? You're able to grab some data. You were talking about like underlying male health issues that could affect this. You touched on obviously veterans, and you touched on drugs, medication. You're talking about like supplements, stuff like that. But I wanted to go back to SSRIs because I know friends that take them. Obviously, I've been recommended to take them. I do know a little bit about them, but I don't think I know enough. And now that you mentioned that they have an effect on your sexual health and your ability to get hard, can you explain what you've seen and how you expect your firm tech to kind of help in that domain so they can get better, more reliable data for future
Sure, sure I can.
treatments?
But I want to go just touch on something that you allude to about speaking with your doctor. You know, I've never had a doctor ask me about my sexual health. I've never had a doctor warn me about the sexual side effects of medication. And speaking with my friends, that's the norm. And doctors, healthcare providers, they kind of treat sex like, hey, everything else is more important than that. Well, that's not true. I mean, what do men care more about? How many steps they took yesterday, or where the cock worked? I mean, that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
And
the
then
8,000 steps a day goes out the window if you're not able to get
right,
laid. Like it's just like,
exactly.
bro, I'm not getting laid. I don't give a shit about my steps.
And then this actually taking a medical history, because the medical history goes little beyond what you said. It's not. It isn't. Oh, you have trouble getting erections. Here's Viagra. It really should be, who are you having sex with? What are the circumstances under which you can't get it up? Now getting back to the point you raised. Let's look at your medications and let's see what the problem is. So the SSRIs interfere with getting erect. They impede blood flow into the penis because of the neuroreceptors that they're involved with. Once the blood is in the penis, they make it harder to ejaculate. A common complaint with the SSRIs, especially from women, is, hey, it takes them like fucking 40 minutes to finish, and I get sore. So we've had
40
men,
minutes. Oh
we've had
God.
men complain. We've had several men using our device who, and I know they're doing this without speaking to their doctors. Well, I'm certain they are, because they might be prescribed at 300 milligrams, and they titrate 250, 200, 150. Okay, hey, maybe if I cut these pills up, I'm now at a point where I might be getting some benefit from the antidepressant, at least not withdrawing from it. And now my sexual performance has improved. I can
Mm,
come, I get harder faster. I can come in a reasonable period of time.
okay.
We just had a guy email me a few days ago. He was having sex with his wife on his birthday, and she said to him, like 30 minutes into it, "When are you going to finish? I'm getting sore." Now,
It's like a
he,
tap out. It's like, okay, honey, I'm done. I'm
right,
tapping out.
and his comment to me was like, well, he wanted to know if our device could help him, figure out his dosage. And I said it could, but of course, he should do that in collaboration with his doctor. But will he? I don't know. I told him, yeah, of course, you got to talk to your doctor, but I don't know. So, the SSRIs are notorious cock killers. But then if you start taking them in combination with other things, it becomes synergistic. So if a man is taking a beta blocker for um, blood pressure or
Mhm.
for anxiety, or he's taking a medication like the Cinepril for blood pressure, he might be taking both of those things, and he's taking an SSRI antidepressant, and he's taking a sleeper as well, and he also likes to smoke too much pot because it disinhibits him, puts him in the mood, makes him more confident. And you toss in 2 shots of bourbon. But now you got a guy who's polypharmacy challenged, and that's where our device both can help, not just with the data, but with the problem itself. Because one of those commonish problems for men is complaints of men is, this is where doctors need to take history and start to listen. I start to get hard, and then I lose it. Uh, Now, if that's happening with someone who's new to them, that could just be performance anxiety. But if that's happening regularly, can become almost like a mental habit, of a loss of confidence.
Mhm.
Or it could be due to any of the medications and drugs that we just discussed. The great thing about a good cock ring, like our ring, even without technology, is it keeps the blood in the penis. So you might get hard and start to lose it, but if you got a tight ring on, a good and tight and effective ring on, the blood stays there. Not gonna say forever, but it's gonna stay there for a reasonable amount of time, and that can restore a man's confidence.
Right.
Uh,
And that's the, like, if we just touch on the anatomy and like the physiology of the penis, I don't think a lot of guys paid attention in grade 9 science, but can we just, I used to teach it. So there's two things that need to happen, right? There needs to be adequate blood flow, and the tissue in the penis is unique than anywhere else in the body, because when blood flow hits it, it actually expands. I don't think there's any other tissue, right, that actually does that. So,
The
but
muscle
when that
does.
happens, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah, you're right. It's just the growth of that tissue though is pretty impressive though.
dramatic.
It's
Yes, yes,
dramatic.
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
I mean, it'd be cool if you could just rub your bicep and you got like super swole, like your cock. That'd be pretty cool.
I try that.
I'm sure there's somebody working in a CRISPR lab right now that's literally doing that, which scares me and excites me at the same time. Just taking dick tissue and putting it in bicep muscles. But um, there's also the return flow that needs to be shut down so that you can actually maintain an erection. And there's a whole hormonal cascade there. So if you could just explain that a little bit better for the listener that didn't pay attention in grade 9 science, so that they can understand the I guess bidirectional flow that needs to happen for your cock to stay hard.
Sure, we'll crudely, the blood flow into the penis through the penile artery is at it's on the dorsum, the top of the penis, and it's relatively deep. Relatively deep meaning it's half a centimeter, deep. The blood needs to go through there. If that's choked off, the blood's not going to get in. So with conventional cock rings, unlike our cock ring, the rings are made out of silicone. They say you got to have a hard on first, because that conventional cock ring is like an arterial tourniquet. Now, guys who are vets understand this because they understand tourniquets the way doctors and nurses do. There are two types of tourniquets. There's an arterial tourniquet. Hey, if I go on the street and my truck runs over my leg and I'm bleeding out, the medics are going to put an arterial tourniquet on, and that tourniquet has to be released every 20, 30 minutes, otherwise the tissue will die. That's what a cock ring is doing. A cock ring is like an arterial tourniquet on your dick, and that's why they tell you not to wear it more than 30 minutes. It's choking
Mm-hmm.
off that arterial circulation that's going up into the dorsum of the penis. The venous return on the penis is on the side, most of it's on the sides of the penis, and it's superficial. So and those are the bulging veins that you see when you're really, really rock hard. So a good cock ring will let the blood in when you're flaccid. As far as there are only a handful of cock rings, and ours is one of them, that are soft enough that the arterial blood can go in, but yet they
Uh,
constrain the venous return. So we wanted a cock ring that could be one comfortable hour, so we can't choke off your dick, and we also wanted a cock ring. I'm sorry about that. It's my phone. I gotta apologize.
no worries. That's what post editing is for.
Good. It's my lawyer.
Oh shit! Do you have
Uh,
to take it?
no,
That's
no, no. I
important.
don't think it.
Okay.
So the blood goes in the blood. So then there's ejaculation. So ejaculation with men is through the urethra, and the urethra is on the bottom of the penis. So our cock ring is designed to put a little bit of light pressure over the urethra, and by doing that we double the ejaculatory phase. We double ejaculatory phase, so if it goes from 3 to 6 seconds, 6 to 12 seconds, uh, you have a longer orgasm, and the longer the orgasm, the more that wonderful post-orgasmic low that we all would like to have as many times as possible. So um, cock rings, on the other hand, have not been designed that way. They've been designed the same way for the last 140 years, which is a hard silicone ring. You got an erection to put them on. They're uncomfortable. They pinch, they constrain. You want them off after a period of time. The problem
Mhm.
with Viagra type medications or Cialis is that they might put some more blood in the penis, especially in younger people. In older people with diabetes or hypertension, where the blood vessels are already compromised, they already have some calcium in them, they're narrow. These medications are less effective. But these medications put more blood into the penis, but they don't keep it there.
Yeah, they don't
So
stop
you
the
got to
return flow is still
right,
coming out just at the same volume, right?
correct. So that's what the challenge is. What keeps the blood flow in? Getting back to ninth grade anatomy, it's smooth muscle.
Hmm.
So you can go to the gym and you can exercise your skeletal muscles that move bones, that move the skeleton. And the muscle down that area is called the PCG muscle, the pubic muscle. And if you tighten that muscle, you can make your butt tighten, and you also make your penis jerk a little bit. You can strengthen that muscle if you want to. If you want to, I
That's the
know,
key. That's the key.
but
That's the Kegels, right?
right, that's the Kegels, right? But it's not going
Yeah.
to help. So again, claims are made that doing that will help men with erectile dysfunction. I don't think that's true. It could be true, but I don't think that's true because the muscles that are involved in erectile dysfunction are smooth muscle. So how do you exercise smooth muscles? Well, you got to use them, and the way to use them is to ejaculate, is to have orgasms. So doctors make all sorts of recommendations about diet, exercise, complying with the diabetes medications, taking your blood pressure, and getting your annual physical, etc. We don't make any recommendations about sex, and we should. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the right number is, but a month from now we'll be coming out with something that we call the erectile fitness score, because we think, just like with blood pressure, it's kind of arbitrary. Hey, 120 or 80, that's normal. We know it's normal from studying lots and lots of people. What's normal for men? Well, we don't really know, but more importantly, what's better for men?
Mm-hmm.
So it might be the average guy, I pity them, frankly, is only having 2 orgasms a month. But it could well be, and I think it's going to be the case, that men need to have 2 to 4 orgasms a week in order to keep their smooth muscles strong.
You're a man of the people. You're a man. This is going out to every wife out there as soon as this podcast is dropped. Honey, we just got confirmation. It's 2 to 4 a week for my
Yes,
health.
right.
We joke
Use
about it,
it.
but it's serious though.
It
But it
is
is
serious.
serious. It's not like you're coming out of left field with this. This is your life's work. And there's
Use it or lose it.
yeah, and you know what? I learned that with Dr. Brandeis on our conversation, that he sees, these old fellas that come in and their dicks are smaller, and they haven't been
Right.
literally using them. They've literally not been using them for God knows how long. No blood flow, and it just shortens up. And I was like, that was fascinated by that. I'm like, because I never really thought about that. Like, oh wait, it could get smaller. But yeah, it's just like a muscle. Well, it's not just
Yeah.
like a
Well,
muscle, like a skeletal muscle, but it does require blood flow, and the nocturnal erections and everything like that are part of the process, and having sex. And that just kind of blew my mind that is a critical component of us being healthy, active men, but we don't monitor it like our heart health, like our mental health, like our even physical health, because we see it as it's just a sex thing that guys always talk about and always want. So we'll just put it off to the dustbin of research. But you're changing that.
it could well be that an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away.
Oh
The
man, I'm making the t-shirt. I'm making the t-shirt.
we we have men utilizing our device uh, who are in great health. I mean, you and I had a conversation, or just before I got on, about ultra marathoners.
Mhm.
We have at least two men that I know who are ultra marathoners who suffer from the issue that you have just discussed. Yeah, they're in their 60s, and their BMI is incredible, and they think they're going to live forever, but their dick doesn't work anymore because they haven't been using it. So then and so now you got these guys they're fit, they have no trouble getting dates, but they can't perform on dates because for several years they weren't sexually active. And I actually think that the long distance running, parenthetically, might not be good for people sexual health because of the metabolic demands of that activity,
The
but also not good
oxidative
for the
stress is way high. Yeah.
yeah, but not good for their marriages or their relationships with their partners, because they're spending so much time running and training that they don't really have that their relationships are neglected. What do you want? Some degree, you almost want to ask, what are you running away from? Because if a guy's out there running 15 miles, say every other day, and kind of brags about it, you're I mean, I'm actually in fairly good condition. Well, I couldn't run 15 miles, but and you look in good condition too. But these guys they just let you know. Oh yeah, I did 75 miles last week, and I'm going to Utah 2 weeks from now, and I'm going to be doing this 10,000 feet up and down. It's like, and I think if you just took 5 hours of your weekly running and to put that into your relationship with your wife, your boyfriend, whomever, I think you'd be happier. I think your partner would be happier as well too. But it's really hard to,
Mhm.
and we're digressing from the subject. But I do think that people can be escaping from things with exercise, or wasting, frankly, not putting up time with other things that are very important in our lives.
No, I was just saying, I've been down those training cycles. I've done a marathon. I've done the Ironman. I know what it takes. It's waking up at 4. It's going to bed late. It's it's a struggle, especially having kids. But I knew this was for a period of time, and then afterwards I'm going to take a nice long break. I now much prefer being in the gym. I do a session. It's heavy. And the thing that I've noticed, and it's funny you mentioned the whole long distance running thing and the oxidative stress. I have a greater sex drive now that I do things like deadlifts, squats, typical like big 3 type movements, because I think I'm just stimulating more testosterone than when I was going for runs, bikes, and swims.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it's anecdotal, but there's probably some evidence to show, hey, you probably have a better sex life when you're just in the gym maybe 3 days a week, especially in your 40s and 50s. Now, like I'm looking at you, you're in your 70s. I don't know what you're doing, but I want to do exactly what you've been doing so that I can roll into my 70s looking fresh and looking like you're in your 50s. So I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if it's like sex every day. I don't know if you've got a regime, but clearly you're doing something right. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit of what your routine looks like, just so we can glean a bit of that information and I can start applying it just on my own time.
Well, I watch my weight. So, people talk about one of my hopes with our device that people develop a positive relationship with their digital health. So, if people have a smart ring or a smart watch or even a digital scale, and they develop a relationship with it. So, I watch my weight. I do have sex 6 to 7 times a week, and I try to have sex for
Doc, you're killing me.
I don't
That's
know,
amazing.
30 to 60 minutes. Because if
Oh,
it's just a few minutes, it's not as emotionally satisfying.
right.
But I'm fortunate, in my life partner, we married 35 years, and my wife thanks me because she knows that as a woman, she doesn't have the same motivation that I do. But having made it a habit's the wrong word. Having made it an expectation and routine in our lives, God, she's had so much more sex than any of her friends, and so much happier, as a consequence. Uh, we So I think people should be fucking more, and if they're not fucking, they should be masturbating. What do
Another
I go to the
shirt.
gym, right? I
Fuck more.
spend an hour in the gym and I work out. I work out hard for 45 minutes, 4 times a week,
Okay.
and so I'm not. But I don't think it's good to do it every day. I don't think that's the. I don't. But this is understudied. I mean, you think about high school coaches telling, "Oh, it's you got a wrestling match tomorrow, Elliot. Don't have sex the next 3 days." The previous 3 days. What are they talking about? They don't know. The same thing with professional coaches. No one really knows. So now there's a tool. Now we actually have a way of evaluating. Frankly, I think the sex would be a great motivator for professional athletes. I think if I had a team and guys were actually gonna, hey Dave, you missed that last pass. But if you make the next reception, uh, here's some women that'll be in your room tonight. I think that would probably motivate you. What do you think? Think that would motivate you?
It's like it's like every infantry soldier's dream. You go fight the war. It's like the ladies are just going to line up to, thank
Hey,
you for your service, right? It was just
it was hey the longest lasting, still around, most successful military cult in the world is Islam, and that's the basis of it. But, the men jihadis are promised women and loot. It's
yeah,
yours.
yeah,
It's a big motivator.
yeah. I was just going to say,
It took them out of the desert and you know to France, and going in one direction, and to Indonesia in the other, in what, 200 or 300 years, and they're
yeah,
still doing it. But
sex is a crazy. I mean, it's obvious, but sometimes it has to be reinforced. Sex, which is the propagation of the species, is one of the, if not the most influential force on the planet. And to deny it seems kind of weird. It just means you kind of want to deny reality. But, when you're a dude and you're a teenager and having been able to teach dudes that are 14, 15, 16, and to see it from a perspective as an adult, as their mentor and teacher, was so interesting because I can see like the testosterone just coursing through them. And I remember being that guy, but I didn't have that perspective. I'm in it, right? I don't know any different. I know what it's like, and I'm seeing them, and I'm just like, yeah, they're just horny as shit. But then you get into your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you're married, and then you just like that. It's that perception shift. It's that hormonal shift. It's that shift in everything that you do, where you went from this guy that was just focused on one thing. I want to get laid. I want to get some pussy. I want to be successful so I can get that girl. Like, it's all in there. And then you get the thing. And now it's just, I'm a suburban dad hanging out at home, watching Netflix on Fridays with my wife and going to the gym every now and then. And it's just interesting to reflect back to think, how was I like that, where I was just this like caveman, and now I'm not. And obviously I got wisdom and everything like that. I don't necessarily want to be that way, but I definitely like that feeling of, hey, I've got energy. Hey, I'm super motivated to do stuff every day. And something like this would be really interesting to see, especially if you could correlate it to testosterone levels too, right? Like, is there a correlation? And then how would you be able to kind of tie those two things in? There's just, the sky's the limit now. Once you have a device that can actually give you some good data, right?
Well, I think that people need to prioritize making love, and if they've fallen out of the habit. I mean, really, what's easier, making love or getting on a Peloton for an hour? I just don't get it, frankly. I just don't get it. So I think that people need to. I think that I think people create people and couples create psychological obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and look for excuses because they fall out of the habit and because it's become awkward. Uh, I
Right.
do, but I also, you mentioned testosterone before, and we have men who are using our device to evaluate their testosterone therapy, and there are at Baylor Hospital in the United States, and in several men's clinics, our device is being used by doctors or by men to say, okay, well, I thought I was low T, or they're running around 300 or whatever. We don't really know, the range for normal T is so large. I run around
Yeah.
300, now I'm at 600. Two things have happened. One, I don't feel any difference, or I do feel a difference. Well, our device makes it objective because, hey, you feel a difference. Well, is your dick getting harder? Are your erections lasting longer? Are you able to have more than one orgasm a day? Has your number of nocturnal erections increased? So our device makes that therapy objective. I mean, in the course of developing this device, I learned that many men my age, people, guys don't talk about this stuff enough, and that's part of the problem. I was like, well, all these guys are taking tadalafil, and all these guys are taking testosterone, and is it working? What's it doing? So I took testosterone for 2 months, give myself an injection once a week for 2 months.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have ED, so I mean, I'm all men get ED. I mean, all men, all our smooth muscles weaken with age. No matter even what we do, my refractory period is not what your refractory period is. What my refractory period was like when I was 25. But there's no change. I took this. I asked my team, my advisory board of urologists, what do you think is going to happen? They said, well, you don't have ED, but you should notice an increasing number of nocturnal erections. They should last longer, and they should be firmer. But there was no change whatsoever. I stopped taking it. I didn't see any benefit.
Really?
And parenthetically, I didn't see any benefit in terms of my. It wasn't like I was suddenly able to go from bench pressing 225 to bench pressing 300 because
Right.
it didn't happen. I didn't. Now I'm a skeptic. I'm not prone to placebo effect, but I didn't notice any benefit. I also took tadalafil regularly, like a lot of veterans, and I didn't see any change again because I was objective change. Now, let's suppose that I was divorced and I was dating someone. I started taking the Dalafil, and the first month I couldn't get up, and the second month I could. I would attribute that effect to the Dalafil, but is that really what's working? So now
Right.
it could just be that I now feel comfortable. I'm in a trusting relationship. So one of the advantages of our device is that it makes that objective. But I would like to talk about you asked me what how do I keep in condition, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The ring has been incredible for my wife and I. So we've never, my wife periodically passed, or I would, like hey, it's Valentine's Day. You go to a sex toy store, you buy a cock ring, and you use it once, and it hurts, and you get rid of it. well, my wife would think, oh, this vibrating cock ring looks cool. Let's see if I can get off on it. We try it once or twice and get rid of
Like,
it. Right?
this feels
Yeah.
weird.
When I a year ago February when I came up with the prototype for our ring with a soft elastomer, um, we haven't had sex without it since then. If it's my wife's idea of foreplay, it's like toss it in front of me and work on the computer. Or if we start to have sex, and I don't have the ring on, she'll say, "Well, why don't you go ahead and put the ring on." So why does she want it? What gets her off on it? Uh, well, there are several things. One, it's not so much at her age. She doesn't need me to last longer. She doesn't need me to have sex for 45 minutes. She after 20, 25 minutes,
The
it's
time of having to impress her is far gone, right?
right. It's done. So it's not about sustaining an erection, but she does like the fact that my orgasms are better. I use it all the time for that reason. And she has kind of noticed subjectively that I'm more satisfied. Why my orgasm is better? Well, I alluded to it before. It's not like a vibrator for women. It's not that great, but it's better. It's putting a little light pressure over the urethra so the orgasm uh, is drawn out. It's it's holding more blood in my penis. This is one of the things that guys got to grasp because gay guys understand this and straight guys don't. Beyond rock hard, there's cock ring hard. Nothing is going to get a man harder than a cock ring. No amount of anal, vaginal, oral, manual stimulations is going to get a man harder than a ring because the ring is mechanically holding more blood in the penis. If you hold more blood in the penis, the head of your penis becomes more sensitive, and you're gonna have a better orgasm. So she likes it because she sees that it makes a difference for me, but it also helps me to overcome something that no one likes to talk about with sex. And this came back to couples who stop having sex regularly. It's the boredom factor.
Mm.
So, I, you know, at you know, I mean, how many times can you fuck the same woman from behind or in the missionary position without thinking, I've done this 2,000 times, and it's kind of boring. Now,
Right.
my wife doesn't feel that way, and I suspect that many women don't feel that way. She still gets off on it, but I don't. So I would actually, as I got older, I start to, after 4 or 5 minutes, I'm starting to lose my erection because I'm bored. Let's change positions. Let's do something else. But if I have the ring on, it allows me to satisfy her more because I can now. Hey, I'm a guy with a hard on. A guy with a hard on is bored, still has a hard on, and the hard on rule kind of overcomes the boredom. And uh, so it's the impact on our sex lives has really been significant. The other
Hmm.
factor, again, people don't like to talk about in relationships is distractibility. I mean, both straight guys, most guys I know, and women don't like to hear this. We complain that, gee, somewhere in the middle of sex, my wife or my girlfriend will start talking about some random thing, like a fight she had with a mother, or something happened with the kids, or something that she forgot to do, or something
Right.
that. I mean, just the other night, my wife started. We're having sex. She's about to have an orgasm. I could as well too. And she starts thinking about how to a redesign of a bedroom. Um, I don't think I don't think that's something that guys think about. I don't think about
No,
changing the
very focused.
bookshelves or moving a wall
Dialed in.
when I have an erection. Yeah. So, but because I've got the ring on, hey, that's okay. I'm a guy with a heart on. You want to talk about the bookshelves for the next 90 seconds? Good. Ordinarily my reaction to that would be the typical married guy's reaction of, what the fuck? You can't hold on to that fucking thought for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Fuck you. I'm gonna go get a
I'm
drink.
at
And then
work
it's
here. I'm putting in
right.
the work. I'm in the office. Come on, respect my job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get what you mean by that. And that's so curious to hear from, not only from like your expert opinion, but just like anecdotally, right? Like these are things, like you said, we don't typically like to talk about because there's a certain taboo around talking about like sexual pleasure, especially, right? And between couples, the boredom factor, these are all things that are real, but it's always just kind of pushed off to the side. So then, because that was going to be my question, like, can you wear this during sex? And clearly you can. And then it actually increases the sexual pleasure for the man, which again, not always something that comes up in conversation, right? It's kind of just like, and maybe that ties into why cock rings are so, I guess, typically male. Like they're not meant to actually make things feel better. It's just like it's utilitarian, like a very typical man thing. It's like it just
Right.
works. Just put it on, keep yourself hard, and shut the fuck up, and just just go bang. You know. So, so the fact that you're taking that like finesse route and using your experience is really cool. So, I wanted to touch base on the study because you mentioned studies before about your ring and what you hope to glean from the data that you're going to get from it.
Sure. Well, one of the major things I want to get from it is I want to mainstream cock rings. I mean, 90% of gay men use a cock ring on a regular basis. And
Oh
only
wow,
10% of straight men do.
us straight guys are
Straight men,
missing out.
straight guys are missing out, right?
All
Because
right.
they have a pride issue. So I mean, look, uh, go into any bar and go up to any guy and say, I can tell a difference. I can tell you whether you're straight or gay with one question. I don't want you getting punched out here. They look pretty strong, but I could try this technique. One question: do you use a cock ring? Well, the straight guy would be like, "What the fuck? I don't need that shit. What are you talking about? Because I'm a guy. I'm proud. I'm a guy, and yeah, get the fuck out of here." The gay guy would be, "Yeah, like last night. You got a better one." So that's one of the, what you know. I mean, we make two rings. We make this technology ring that's more expensive. It's like it's a wearable. It's less expensive than smartwatches, smart rings. So it's expensive. It's twenty seven
The
five
dick bit.
dollars.
The dick bit.
Yeah, dick bit. We also make the same ring without technology at $60. That the functionality of that is is superb. It's effective and
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, etc. So we need to change the straight male mindset about cock rings. The other thing I want to get out of it is I want to provide men with the ability to see where they are right now with data and try to stay where they are by utilizing that data to not be obese, take the diabetes medications, take the antihypertensives, avoid too much alcohol, too much recreational drugs, et cetera, things that have a negative impact on their sexuality. And those 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 two things would be life changing for for most men. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't, my goal is to provide people with data and pleasure enhancers that will allow them to have a longer life of lovemaking that they and their partners desire.
Mm. Yeah, that's that compassionate side, right? That especially in your case, right? There's a data side, but also when the data marries up with an improvement in your overall life and your connectivity and your ability to connect with your partner, that just allows you to start thriving. And that's why I do what I do here. My goal is to help myself thrive, but help the community try and thrive by listening to outside the box ideas for sexual health, for using a cock ring. For these are all things that in the traditional health space don't typically get covered off. But in my opinion, this is where the gains are made, and this is where you're going to see that ability to thrive. Because if you can connect with your significant other through sex, because let's be honest, that's how I connect. I'm very physical. I'm sure a lot of guys are the same too. That's essentially what we want, right? And then if we can't, there's the shame and everything that comes with it. And I can only imagine what it's like for guys, especially young guys like myself, in their 40s. Because uh, was it you that said it, or was it Judson that said, the VA is one of the largest
I
suppliers
said, yeah,
of, yeah. And
yeah,
I was like, you know what? Of course it is, because there's so many veterans that have erectile dysfunction and are just looking for a way to connect with their partners so that they can have just an intimate relationship. And a lot of us have had those intimate relationships busted by whether it's deployments, whether it's psychological issues, whether it's mechanical, physical issues. To get that back and to be able to actually physically identify, hey, this is actually working. Hey, maybe I should do this a little bit more. Maybe I can, thrive a little bit more. Will just give the community just that much more hope and progress in the future.
Well, one of the studies that we're going to be starting soon, and I'm actually looking for your help in recruiting subjects, and relates to the veteran community. We want to study 25 vets. We want to have ring versus tadalafil versus ring plus tadalafil. And my thesis, and what I want to prove, is that the ring alone is superior to a medication, but both together are superior to either one alone. And I'm looking for your help in recruiting people. I'll let you know when we kick that off, which will probably be in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm so enthused to help on this side of stuff. And these are the things that, had you told me 5 years ago, hey, you're going to be talking to this really cool urologist in the States and setting up some kind of study with using the dick bit, unofficially called the dick bit, but getting data on your erection so that guys can have a healthier, more fulfilled life, and be able to get objective data on not only just their dick health, but their coronary, like heart disease risk, is just incredible for me. So absolutely, I'm sure those that are listening to, because this one will be published relatively soon. This episode will be published relatively soon. Once we get some more details and stuff like that, just anecdotal evidence of the enthusiasm for this study. Having chatted with the boys in the mess the other night, well, the enthusiasm was pretty high. So
Good. Good.
yeah, I don't think you're going to have a hard time finding 25 veterans to be a part of a study that's being structured around this. So before we wrap up, I'd love to get just kind of like your final thoughts and where you see this device going in the future, and where we can get more information on yourself and the actual device itself.
Sure. Well, I think that the data that we're generating with this device is going to become even more sensitive and specific because we're going to be adding pulse oximetry to it probably in the fall. So we'll be actually be able to measure cardiac rhythm and the oxygen content of your blood. So I think of this device was something that people can use overnight to manage cardiac rhythm, evaluate the cardiac rhythm, and evaluate their sleep for sleep apnea. But I also want to deliver similar benefits for women, and we've already tested a similar device for women long term, looking at a year. And we're actually about to launch a WeFunder campaign. You can find us on WeFunder because I need to raise about $1 million in order to develop the female device that we've already tested in order to commercialize that. Because women have all the same issues that men do: diabetes, hypertension, obesity. They take too many meds,
Right.
et cetera. What we're doing, though, I'm confident for men will become the standard of care. Right now, if a man your age or my age went to a doctor and said, "Hey, I've got chest pain," the doctor just listened to the stethoscope and said, "Hey, you sound okay, Dave. Well, I know what go ahead." You think, "What the fuck? I want an electrocardiogram. I want a stress test. I want a CT angiogram. I want a blood test." What was this? Is it 1880? So what the data that we're generating is going to become the standard of care for evaluation of sexual health. And my goal is to have sexual health become not something that a doctor asks as an afterthought if you maybe have a problem because you're a vet, but ask everyone, because as you said several times in the course of this conversation, someone's sexual health is key to someone's self-esteem, and and their overall health. So we can, you can find us online at myfirmtech, MYFIRM tech.com. If you use I know Elliot, ELLIOT, as a promo code, you get a 20% discount. And you can also reach me personally at Elliot, ELLIOT, at myfirmtech.com. I hope to hear from you. I hope you check out the products and enjoy them and find
That's
them to be
awesome.
useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely hope to continue helping with this with device moving forward, in helping out with research and anything that could be a service to make sure that the community can get a little bit more granular on their health, because that's exactly what the point of the podcast is. So super conversation here. I love the
Thanks,
fact that
Dave.
we can dive into into these topics, and especially in our community, a lot of us being military and stuff like that. We can talk a mean streak, we can talk a fair game, but when the rubber hits the road, like, hey, it's time to really talk about your sexual health, and like not just brag about how many broads you used to bang back in the day, because this is going to be important moving forward. It's cool to be able to kind of bring that level of expertise that you're able to bring, but also to have this conversation in a more lighthearted kind of platform, which is the podcast here. So the kind of the meshing of the two worlds, and that's kind of the point. So thanks so much for
Pleasure.
giving some of your time to chat to the community. Really appreciate it, and I'd love to have some updates down the road, especially when the studies come out and the product has a lot more traction too, so that we can spread the word as widely as possible within the hard to get
Thanks,
community.
Dave. It was a pleasure talking with you too. Stay fit, stay firm, man. Use
Right
it
on.
or lose it.
I have to make this shirt. I have to make sure. Fuck more. It's going to sell like hotcakes. And folks, thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget, train hard, fight easy. See you on the next one. Peace.